All right. I wanted to start to do a video that discusses an application that I use to mix my XR 18 Behringer digital mixer. Now, Behringer makes their own version. It's called the XR app, and we'll do offline here. And the XR app um, is not bad in its sense. I'm just going to kind of pull it up here just so you can see it. If you take a look at it, it's pretty plain, but there's things about it that I think it's a bit cumbersome at times. You could pick the bus or the monitor. Like, I don't like it called bus, I like monitor. You can look at the FXN. But then to get out of this, you got to go out of there. And those of you familiar with this know how this mixer works. So instead of using this application, I am going to use the Mixing Station XR Pro app. Now, this Pro app is incredibly flexible. It's what I like about it. And I'm going to sign offline. Is that you can actually make your mixer out to be anything. And now, if you take a look at this mixer, you'll notice this is quite different from the Behringer app that they use. For instance, if you take a look at this side here, I put all my monitor channels right there so that I can just hit any monitor that I have there. So if I hit monitor 1, there's monitor 1, and I also modify it so the screen flashes at me when I'm not on my mains. I'm not sends on fader mains, which I like. If I want to also send effects 1 to any particular channel, I just hit that button and I instantly can do anything. I can send my mixes to whatever I want. And we'll go back to the mains. So I also made it so that if you see over here, this is where I have the master faders always there. And then in this little section here, it's all customized, so that always sits there. That's the only thing that's changed, and my fader always stays there. I think that this application is really quite amazing. In this layout too, you see I did iPod only, so that will mute out all my stations so that only iPod is playable at this time. So what I want to do is I want to kind of show you how you build this. And first what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some deleting of things, which is going to bring us into a default condition. So I'm going to delete all these channels that I made. And I'm going to go to what's called my layers. And I'm going to restore defaults. Okay. And I'm also going to include, go back to here too. So basically what I'm doing is I am going to shut this down. As you see, I'm going to reboot the app, and we are going to start this app from what you would normally see if you just bought the app. Again, I'm going to go offline, select the XR18. So there you go. If you just bought the application, this is exactly how it would look here. I have the options modified up here where I'm putting meters up here. That's just kind of what I like to see. And so what I want to do is I want to customize this. So what I first do is I determine how many of these channels do I want in my mix. Now we're going to start out, I want to make one master mix that has all my channels showing, 1 through 16, and also what I like to call the iPod channel or the aux channel. Okay, so navigation, beginning to change this, starts with us first going up here to this corner and us hitting those 3 little dots. Okay, so we're going to hit that, and what this is, this gives us lots of different options. You can do your scribble script, you can do your auto mix, your dashboard, and all that other stuff. But we're going to go into setup. So we hit the setup button. Okay. Now the sliders are called layers. Okay. So as you can see in the corner here, we can pick apps, layouts, and layers here. Okay. We are going to change the layers. We're going to change how this particular layer looks, okay? So we're going to hit layers. Now on this page, you see this section. This determines how many channels can go per layer. These are your actual layers that we have, okay? The first thing I want to do, because I want to have 17 channels per layer, I'm going to hit the 8 button. Now this opens up a window where I choose how many channels I want on the layer. I'm going to pick 17. Okay? So that means I can allow 17 faders in all of these layers. Okay? Even if I have a 9 through 16 channel, it'll still allow me to show 17 channels, even if I had FX bus. Even though your FX and bus, you only have 6, you only have 4, you would show 17 slots there. Okay? So what I want to do is I want to edit this one first, and there's a few things I'm going to do this. First of all, in order to edit it, you have to hold your finger down, and all of a sudden on it, and then the window will pop up saying edit. So I hit edit. So if we take a look at this, we show only 8 in there because the layer once only housed 8. But you can see I have all this space here. This section here is a section where all your space is to add another 17 channels. So what I'm going to do first, I want to rename this layer. So if we look at this little section right here, I'm going to hold my finger down on it, and that's going to allow me to change the name of this. And I'm just going to call it mains. Okay. Actually, I'll do LR because it tends to pop up. Sorry about that. I'll call it LR mains and hit OK. So as you notice up here, this name changed, and that will also change in the front board. Okay. So I want to add the rest of the channels to this, and to do that, you go up and you hit this little plus sign in the right corner. So hit it, and then you select channels or /DCA. So right here, everything that is in blue are the channels that are selected for that layer. Now, it's important that I select the extra channels in the order I want them to be shown on the layer, or else they would turn up backwards. Like if I hit 12 before I hit 10, it would go 8, 12, 10 because of the order that I hit them. So I'll take that back out, and I'm going to hit 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. And aux 1. Okay. Now that this is done, you don't save it or anything like that, but you go back to the main page. Now, how you get back to where you were to back up through the sequence is by hitting this up in the top left-hand corner. See where there's that little arrow right there? You just hit that, and this will walk you out. So now, as you can see, we have all these channels in the layer, but you are still in setup mode. So you go back one more time, and what I also want to do in this, I'm going to delete channel this one thing, channel 9 through 16, because I don't need it anymore. So what you do is you hold it, then you hit delete, and that takes it out. So you could at this time save this as a layer, and you can go up in here, but I'm not going to do save right now. I do it a little bit differently. People can save this as a layer. You'd hit this, and then you could hit plus, and it'll be called a layer. Okay, and we could call it 17 channels. I'll just do that. 17 channels. I prefer to do it a little bit differently, and then that would save that layer. Okay, we're going to go back, and then we go back. Now we're back on our main page here. So as you can see, we have all these layers here. This page has 17 now. I don't like how this section is laid out. I don't like it at all. So I'm going to change that. And then once again, I hit my 3 dots in the corner. I'm going to hit setup. Now, and I'm going to go into what we call the layouts section. Okay. Now in the layouts section, you hit this, and when you hit it, you come up with a blank screen, and it's like, what do I do with this? Okay. If you look up in this top corner with the plus sign, That plus sign will allow you to go into what I would call edit layout mode. So we hit the plus sign, and all of a sudden, new layout. And we're going to call this default. Or maybe call it, we'll call it default. Because I wanted to create something that was the default. Okay? Now, when you do this, it's like, holy crap, what's all this mess over here? What this is a default start for it, and it's very confusing, okay? But it's in 3 pieces. The first piece is the main layer that's selected, and you can pull it over here. The second piece is this part that originally was in the default mode, and that allows you to select your mains, auxes, buses, FX send, and all that stuff. And then this other part here is find, mute, enable, sends on fader, bus 1. But we really don't need any of this as far as I'm concerned. Again, this is preference. So I'm going to delete this section. And how I delete it is I hold my finger down on top of it, then I let it up, and I hit delete. That deletes it. Okay. So now I have my 17 channel layer to work with, and then I have the left right mains to work with. Okay. Now, how this works is, and this is weird, you notice up here where it says resize. Now you would think when you say resize, you could resize these, right? Well, guess what? It's the opposite. When it says resize, you can move it. When it says move, you can resize it. I know, it's just goofy. So what I prefer to do, and I wish I could take full credit for this because I want to be smarter than everyone, but actually I'm very grateful for 2 videos I watched by another YouTube person. I'm actually going to put them on this description because they really taught me a lot about how to do this, okay? So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go and take this, we're going to move this, and I want to change this to be horizontal instead of vertical. So how I do that is I hold my finger down on it, I select edit, and if you notice here orientation, I'm going to hit horizontal. And again, we hit this to go back, and we're going to go back, and there you go. I'm going to resize it by hitting resize, which shows move, and then kind of pull it over to here. I'm going to move it a little bit more. Now, it tends to, when you resize it, the section always goes to the top is what you're pushing towards. Like this will always be your corner of reference to push towards or pull from. So I'm going to push up, okay, to right there, and I want to spread that out just a little bit. And now I'm going to move it, and I'm going to bring it down to here. And again, this is just me doing an example of doing this. You can do this any way you want. The next thing I want to do is I want to create a master slider over here that's always going to be present, that no matter what layer is shown, this master slider will always be on my right hand side. So how you do that, how you add any layers or buttons or sliders or knobs, is that you push this plus sign right up here. Okay, so you hit plus. Now this section here allows you to add buttons, layers, all that other kind of fun stuff here. Channel strips, layer list, and I'm going to hit slider. Nope, that's not it. I always get this backwards. Sorry about that, guys. We'll delete that. I'll hit plus, and I'm going to hit channel strip. So if you look over here, this is a channel strip. I'm going to bring this over to about right there. I'm going to resize it. As we know, resizing is not exactly what I think it is. So now I have this slider off to the right. Now I have to tell the system what I want this slider to do. So what I do is I hold my finger down on it, I hit edit, and in this section, this is where you can label it, and you can ask some visibility questions, and this section is a section that tells you what you want the slider to do. So I'm going to hold label down, and I'm going to just call it mains. Okay, and as you notice, mains popped up. I really don't want to do any change with it, but what I want to do with it is I want to add an action. So I hold down add action, and I select dynamic channel. I don't want a dynamic though, I want a fixed channel. And then I find the left and right mains, and I call LR. You hit LR, you go back, and then you go back. So now it is left and right mains, and it's showing here. Now I also want to create what I would call a button. So I push button, all right? Now all buttons, whenever you push button, they will always default to this corner every time. And I'll show you. I'm going to add another button again. Watch what happens. Boom. So now I have two buttons. They always default to this corner. If, for instance, this button was still there, it'll double on top and you wouldn't even see it. Okay? So they always go to that corner. I want to take this first button that I created, and I want to create a, I'm going to move this over here. I want to create a master mute. That's going to mute all the channels. Okay? So I hold that button down, I hit edit, and I'm going to call it mute. And I already know there is a mute on the slider, but I want to make this mute. The other thing I want to do is that when it's pushed, I want to indicate that it's pushed. So what I do is where it says theme, I hit regular and I hit yellow. Now every time I push that button, the button will now be yellow. Hit add action and select that, and I want to hit mute group, and this is going to be mute group 1 right there. So I'll go back, then I'll go back, and notice how it says mute. Okay, I'm going to create one more mute, and I'll use this button that I created, and I want this one to be called iPad only. So I'm going to hold that down, I'm going to edit, and I'm just going to call it iPad and hit OK. I'm also going to change it to the color yellow and add action, go to mute group, and I'm going to hit 4 because that's where I'm going to set everything on 4 except for my iPod. Now, just a reminder, to get out of these screens, you hit this corner again, okay? So I back up, and if you look at it, you can see here that those two are now here, okay? So I'm not quite done. One of the things I like to do is I want to create a button up here that gets me to mains. Then I want to put monitors here, and I want to put FX right here. So I do this by, again, hitting the button, add button. I hold this button down. I'm going to edit it. I want to call it mains. And I want to change it to yellow. Then the action sends on fader. And I want to hit off because that's what makes it the main faders for your master mix, okay? I learned that from the other video that I'll show a link to here. Again, we hit back, then we hit back, and as we can tell, it says mains. So now I want to do my monitor separate. I don't like the term bus. I hate the word bus, actually. So I'm going to create another button. Notice it went on top of it. I'll put a little gap on it. And I'm going to edit it, and I'm going to call it Mon1. Okay, I want to make sure I want it yellow, and then my action is going to be sends on fader, and bus 1 is monitor 1, so that's already checked. Go back, go back. So it shows up at Mon1. Now I could hit the plus button again and create a button, but instead they got a nice little shortcut called clone. So I want to clone this button because I want everything in it to act the same way except for the name and which fader send it is on. So I'll hold that down. I'm going to hit clone. Notice how it goes in the default place. Hold that button down. Edit. And we are going to call it Mon2. And I also will need to change my action from SOF1 to SOF2 bus. Go back, go back. Now we have Mon2, hold down again. We're going to clone. Once again, it goes up in that corner. Hold it down. We're going to edit. We're going to call it Mon3. Hit OK. change FOF to bus 3. So there you go. So now I've got my monitor set up. I got the main set up. Because the main button is there is if you light these buttons up, if you hit your main button, it will shut these buttons down. So now I also want to have an effects sends on fader on here too. So I could easily just go mon 1, clone, and then we'll call it, we'll edit it, and we're going to call this FX1. Okay. Change my SF3, put it on FX send, back. I'm going to do one more because I want FX2 on there too. Clone, edit, and call it FX2. Change SF2 to send to. Go back, and we're going to do one more. Clone, and then we will do FX3. We'll edit, hit that, go back, and call it 3, and change FX3. Then we go back, and there's kind of basically a nice little layout here. I have all these over here. Really, I like how this is right here. This gives me quick and dirty access. I have the LR mains here. I debate whether or not I want to do anything with this anymore. This is kind of redundant. But I can put a button for any of my sends on fader anywhere. I can put the buttons anywhere. If I wanted to, I could put them over here, or I could put them anywhere. There's no reason they have to go right there. So I kind of like this layout. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this, the sends on fader main mix right to the edge here. Okay, right close to, next to it. Then I'm going to resize it. Now again, remember, when it says move, you're actually resizing, and when it says resizing, you're actually moving. We'll put our finger here. We're going to drag this all the way over to here. And that's a pretty decent layout. I like that. Real simple, real to the point. You got basically everything you need right here. So when we are done, okay, we are going to hit our default layer and go back a step. On this page, you need to go to this folder. Now this is a weird thing. You have to go back to save the work you were just on. Totally opposite of all type of saving logic. If there's another way, please show me. But this seems to be the simplest, most less confusing way for me. Is so you hit that folder and you select layouts and layers. Okay. All right. Now, what I do now is you notice that 17 channels is showing, but it only shows a layer because I saved it as a layer. I can choose now to save it as a layer and a layout by holding my finger on it and hitting save. And it's asked if I want to rewrite. Yes. And there you go. It now went from just layouts and layers, it went to both layouts and layers. So, we'll go back again to the end. Go back again. And there you go. There's the channels all set up. If you notice, all my little extra stuff here is here, this is here, and this is here. I love this part. If you hit this, this tells you, hey, you're not on your mains, and then it goes back to mains. How you set that function up is you go back up to here again. You hit that, you hit setup, and you hit the app cog. Okay? And right here is where you can do some customizing of your general customizing, mixer customizing, channel strip. So you hit mixer, and right in this section is show SOF mix select. This is where you do the blinking. Select that. You also, I set up my meter bridge and meter faders. Bridge faders are up there too. Okay. And then if you go to channel strip, one of the things that I decided to select on that was solo buttons on there, but I did mute and enable for channels and that. So okay, so now let's go back, and there you go. Now let's say, for instance, I want to change this. I no longer want all these channels here. I want to create a mix for my band. My band is called Third Wheel. I'm going to show you how to go from here to create a new layout. So again, I'm going to hit the corner button, and we're going to go first to Setup, and we're going to fix the layer first. Okay. I'm going to change this from 17 to 12 because there's only 12 channels that I need for just our band. We're a 3-piece band. I'm going to go into the mains to fix this. Hold it down, sorry about that. Edit. And I'm going to remove all the channels I don't need. And you do that by hitting the plus, hitting channel, and taking out the channels you don't need. I don't use 13 or 12, 10, 9, 8. These are all the channels I do. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I take those channels out, I back up, and I back up again. I'll leave everything like this, back up again, and there you go. This is my third wheel mix, okay? So, if I want to make this change now, and I can show you, I'm going to go into Setup, and I'm going to go into Layers. Oops, I'm sorry. I'm going to go into Setup. I'm going to go into Layouts. Now, right here, I can create this setup as my band. So how I do it is I go to the folder, hit the folder, and this plus button. This is how I do it. I hit the plus button. Oh, I don't want to say that. I want to hit 2. I hit the plus button. And I'm going to call this Third Wheel, because that's my band. Hit save. And if I go back, there it is. There's my layout. Now, if I want to change this back to that master layout, again, we go to the 3 little dotties, hit that, go to Setup, I go to Layouts, and I hit, not default, this is where this gets confusing. Go to your folder instead. Hit your folder, and I'm going to hit 17 channels as my select. So I'll push the button, and it says load 17 channels, and I say yes. Now if I go back, there you go. Oh, no, that didn't do it. Sorry about that. And layers. That's where I goofed up. And yes, back up, back up. See what I did wrong? I need to make sure, just show you real quick, this is a common mistake that I've made, is make sure you select layouts and layers to reload, okay? Don't do just one. That's where I goofed up. So now if I want Third Wheel to come back again, I select layouts and layers. I hold the button, hit yes, go back, and then there's Third Wheel again. Again, one more time. Go up to the little dotty thing, hit that, Setup, Layouts, hit the folder, make sure I have both layouts and layers selected, and hold down 17 channels, hit yes, and we're back to the main thing. It's really simpler than it comes across. That's what's so amazing about this. And then this is where you can do all that other fun stuff in that, okay? So I want to show you now to save like presets like your Scribble scripts and all your EQs and all that other stuff. You would go into this folder, and I have it as offline scenes, and I'd hit Third Wheel, and I load it. You see it's syncing. Now look at the difference. That loads all your presets, including your EQs, all that other kind of stuff. If you take a look at this, that's where all that stuff is saved. this folder is not a layout folder. This is all your scribble scripts, your EQs, your fader settings, all that other kind of stuff. Okay? So now, see how dirty this is? I'm going to boot up the third wheel layout. Setup, layouts, folder, hit layers, hold this, load it, and back, and there you go. Look how it cleaned it all up. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, there's 2 other videos that are amazing. If it wasn't for them, I would not have known this. I will put this in this YouTube link. I want to thank you for watching it. Hopefully it wasn't too confusing, because I was totally confused by it when I first started. You can put any layer, button, slider, knob. I know the one video the gentleman put his the amount of effects he added. He also even put a tap video for delays in this section here. So, you know, it's unlimited. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day.